Hi everyone, welcome to our home in Provence, in south of France.
This is actually our first video, although it's sort of a summary of 8 months of work that we did on a ruin, a complete stone ruin, and it's now our home.
It is. We are both travelers, and for the last decade we have been traveling the world, most of the time in a nomadic life. Myself making documentaries, Lukas doing a lot of research on photography and history of photography. And now we have a home that we made ourselves, and we're looking forward to share with you that very beautiful adventure we had.
And that chapter sort of started, I guess, with COVID. Like for many people, we had time to reflect and rethink, and we thought it would be great for us to have a base, and we chose Provence.
We chose Provence because this is where I grew up, and it is also a very beautiful region, of course.
Ideally, we wanted a big place with a garden, sort of the more stereotypical thing, thinking about permaculture and all sorts of stuff. But we realized it doesn't really fit our life because we still travel a lot, we work a lot, around the world, and frankly, it also didn't quite fit our budget.
That's true. So after searching for a few months, we finally found this house, which we actually had crossed a few times, but never really looked at it. And when we finally did, Lukas saw the potential, I must say more than me. I was quite scared by the state of the house.
Which you didn't tell me actually in advance. You only told me that later on, like when it was already almost finished.
Because I trusted you. I trusted whatever Lukas wanted to do and whatever he sets his mind onto will happen. So
well, yeah, the good thing was, this is actually one of the things why we got it, is that it had a roof. The previous owners, they put on a roof before they abandoned the project, which was sort of our luck because we could start working right away.
Yes, because the roof felt like something that needed to be done by real professionals. Maybe now we would be up to do a roof, but at the time we didn't feel like it. So that was really great because it allowed us to start right away. The day we got the keys, we were basically already banging some walls and cleaning some things. So let us take you on a tour of our home and what it looked like when we got it.
We have 2 vaulted caves downstairs, with each a door entrance, and one actually has a mini patio. The big stairs on the outside, they led originally to the living room, but we created an entrance section, and for that we built a new door. From there is a room, which is now the kitchen, and afterwards the dining room. That's our first floor. Up the stairs is some kind of a strange mezzanine room. Another room was even odder because it was tiny and very high, which we turned into a bathroom and a toilet. Another half floor up, now living room, and behind the bedroom. There's a small terrace where we had to extend the entrance section. And on the very top is a mini office for Nora and her editing room, and a formerly open space that is now our sunroom, the room where we sit in now.
The vaulted caves were untouched for many, many decades, and Lukas dragged out maybe 2 tons of stones and earth because it was a place for animals back in the time. And I think it goes back into medieval age, those parts.
Yeah, those pillars, definitely. That's at least what people told us. We made the floors into concrete because the foundations weren't really good and nothing was stable. The access to a house is really not good. It's small, tiny roads, and basically you have to carry up all the material. So the 10 tons of concrete that we mixed, we had to push with push carts and buckets up to the 2 floors.
To the point where the villagers, when they saw us arriving, they told us, "Oh, you are the brave ones."
Yeah.
Yes, that was our nickname, the brave ones,
Yeah.
before we even started. And I think no one believed in the village that we would manage and in such a short time.
Yeah, because the access is really tough, and I guess luckily we're naive, so you don't think about that physical aspect that's gonna come. You just do it.
Having my parents nearby was also great. They were so helpful. Aside from feeding us quite often when we were too tired to cook, my dad also drove many times the truck with the sand. So we would go together and ton by ton drive in the trucks here with all the material. Thank you to my dad.
The next step in terms of concrete was to reinforce the stairs going up, because a lot of the railing was broken and some of the parts of the stairs. The same inside, those stairs were actually completely gone. I mean, we couldn't really walk up the stairs at all. And then a big issue was that there were structural issues. We had huge holes in the second floor in the floor. And I guess that's one reason why people never were interested in the place, because it looked so unsafe with all the supports everywhere and then all these massive holes. So we reinforced them with metal deep in the wall and then poured the concrete to make it stable.
Oh, I think you should mention something about how you saved the beautiful tiles, the Provence tiles that everyone was recommending us to cover.
That's true, actually. I guess most experts would say like, oh, it's too unsafe, the floors. You should just cover it with concrete, you know, make it really solid and like pour it on top of whatever is there.
And make it straight.
And make it straight, because the floors upstairs have a difference, I think, of 15 centimeters, something like that. So yeah, they definitely are like this. But yeah, we didn't do that. We didn't listen to them. We wanted to keep those beautiful old tiles, tomates they're called, beautiful red tiles. I guess some of them are at least 100 years. So yeah, and we worked around that and recovered the whole surface later on with these beautiful tiles to keep that kind of authentic feeling, which is what this whole area is all about. Having these old materials that, you know, you feel the age. And I would say that's the whole spirit of the house, is that to have old materials, to have things that have already life. And that's why we reclaimed and recycled so much.
Mm-hmm. Reusing so much. One of the biggest jobs that we were also warned about many times, but we had no idea it would be such an immense task, was to clean the walls. The walls were very old and there was pieces of old plaster that we removed, but as we were uncovering the plaster we were discovering immense holes created by rats that had transformed this as a stash for their nuts and everything. So we had bags and bags of nuts and different things from rats for many decades living here. So that was such an
That's a tough one. I mean, you were really working hard at this. I mean, we'll show you some photos where you're covered and like your mask, and it's a real dirty job.
Yeah.
And you had your arm, I remember, in the whole wall because the holes were so deep, and there was like millions of little things coming out, and that was really a tough job. And I, even though everybody told us, underestimated the length of this process and the amount of materials we in the end threw away, the bags and bags of like old plaster and stuff that just piled up. So that was a huge task. The next step for us was to reinforce the walls, because of course by scraping out all the things, which you did so much, you definitely weaken the walls. So we reinforced it a lot. I mean, we had to put in whole stones in some sections and fill in holes. So that, yeah, definitely took a serious amount of time.
Also much longer than we planned.
Definitely. The house had no connection to the system. There was sort of a skinny electric wire, but we had no plumbing and there was no connection to the canal. So with a friend, we dug out the hole and we actually connected it to the canal. And for me, it was also the first time making anything like that, making a plumbing system. So we ripped open parts of the floor to put in heating and also all the plumbing pipes.
I mean, you ripped it apart and by saving very nicely the tiles again.
Definitely, yeah.
So this was also very, very precious, the work you did. But so far, everything works.
We also made, of course, a grid for the heating, because we have a central heating system here, but through a wood stove. I'll make an extra video on that, how I thought that up, because that was quite a process and deserves some detailed explanation. But yeah, it's a central heating system. We have radiators, but fueled with wood.
I remember your excitement and weeks of research on that topic, so I think you'll have great things to share.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the biggest parts in terms of the thought process of the house.
But it works so great and it became such a big piece of our house, especially in the winter, even if it's still beautiful in the summer, but in the winter it's the heart of the home and everyone comments and loves it.
Yeah, because it's a wood stove that is, I mean, a cooking unit, so we cook on it, but it heats the room and it also heats the radiators because it runs through a water system. So it's like a very multi-use system.
And looks great. Obviously, the job of doing the electricity was an immense job and also sort of scary to do that for the first time. Would you do anything differently?
I mean, there's definitely things to do different because, I mean, I did it from scratch. I read a lot about it. We made the plans. We had a professional friend who, checked if everything's okay, if everything was used correctly, and in the end connected it to the fuse box. So thank you, Marcin, for that help. That was really important. But yeah, I mean, I think when you plan a house, the hardest part is to pre-visualize how you will use the house.
That's true. I remember you asking me, making plans and drawings, imagining where I want to switch on, switch off things. And for me, it was very hard to have that vision. For you, a bit easier.
Well, I mean, at one point you have to make a decision, but especially I think we still changed sort of the light positions.
We did. We still are changing.
We still are changing, and that's definitely a difficult part to imagine. Okay, where will be that light? Because you have to create a cable to that specific spot. A great thing that I'm still really happy that we used is a Wi-Fi light bulb system. So it's actually the Philips Hue system where you connect the switch, which is mobile, it's just a button, to the actual light bulb. So you can change later on where the bulbs are. So they just have to have a direct source. And that's a huge difference. I mean, it's technical, but it's a really big difference if you have, let's say, 3 switches that go to the same bulb. If you do it by cable, that's a huge job because you have to connect all the switches to the bulb. And if you ever done that, that requires planning, cable, lots of pipes, so on and so on. So this Wi-Fi system was definitely something I would do again. But yeah, with the experience now, I think we would do less lights on the ceiling.
Yes, definitely. But that's an aesthetical decision, I think, more than practical.
That's right, yeah. But again, this is not a big problem. If you have that Wi-Fi system, you just change the bulb from the ceiling to a standing lamp.
That's what we did.
Yeah, and that works fine.
So once Lukas did all of the wiring, the electricity, the plumbing, we were finally able to start covering the walls, which was something I was really looking forward to because I thought once the walls will be nice and all covered, it will start to feel like a home.
Yeah.
And we decided to do it full natural with lime, which is originally quite used in Provence. It's stopped over the years, and also it's rarely pure like we did it because we did it ourselves. So we really kept the recipe extremely pure to make the house fully breathable.
Yeah, I'll definitely do a separate video on lime plastering because it took me enormous amount of research to figure out how this works, and it seemed very complicated. In the end, I think I narrowed it down. It's not so difficult. But the beauty of lime is, as you said, it's breathable. And what we discovered, a lot of lime plastering is like fake lime of sorts.
Yeah, they cheat.
They put in concrete. So, but once you put in cement,
even a tiny bit.
Yeah, it sort of blocks the breathability, and then there's no more point of having lime.
I mean, then you have it for aesthetical reasons, but you don't have all the benefits for your health to live in a place like
Exactly.
this.
Because with stone walls, you have this lime and it's breathable. And we used natural hydraulic lime 3.5. Again, I'll make a separate video with all the details on that. And we just followed the walls. I mean, that was sort of the nice thing because it was all exposed stone, which stone wasn't necessarily nice, but it had all these shapes. And we were just like, following all of these shapes.
Yeah, we embraced the imperfection of the home, the house, and now it looks very organic and very alive.
Yeah, there's something soft about it. But the process was definitely long because we had, I think, about 18 tons of lime and 18 tons of sand and 6 tons of lime. So that's a lot of material to bring up here. Your dad again helping us with the van, but then mixing it up with 2 types of sand, coarse and fine for the second finishing layer, and then bringing it up and carrying it up the stairs and with the pulley system and bucket by bucket basically.
Yeah, not talking about how also tiring this whole process is for your body, and so I think you will have lots of feedback and tips to maybe also take it slow at some moments.
Definitely. I mean, I was definitely in a push mode and wanted to get it done and see the walls covered and all of that. And at times, luckily, we had the help of 2 people and we really created a system. But it's enormous amount of surface. Although our house is small, but wall surface is always a lot.
The walls were hungry because they really needed quite a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
They were more hungry than we knew.
That's true because there's like these big gaps because we had so many distances. So at times we had like a couple of centimeters, and that requires really a lot of material. But check out the lime plaster video, a lot more info.
So we started the work on the house maybe in December. So it was winter. I think the few first months it was snowy, rain, and very cold. So we were doing work on the room. There was no windows, open air. And one of the highlights for me is when the good days started coming and the weather started to change. And that's also when we finally finished the walls inside and went to work on the facade. So it felt like really a bit of the final touch, although it was not the end.
No, not at all.
But it felt very good to be on the outside and make the facade, so the face of the house for the outside beautiful. And we did that with lime as well, all natural, with a special color. We got inspired by some other houses in the region. And that was also an adventure. We also did a few mistakes that we will tell you about.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was my mistake because I did it. I drew it up. I mean, I mixed it up too thickly, the lime, and when it's too thick, it can break in the sun when it dries too fast. So we discovered that. Luckily, we discovered that, and then we applied a ton of water afterwards to keep it moist to dry properly.
Yeah. For hours, we were just spraying water on it for hours and hours, just praying and talking to the walls to just soak it in and not feel dry.
And luckily it worked out.
It did. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and we had a friend, Stasio, who had a scaffolding, and he gave us some scaffolding.
Thank you, Stasio.
Wonderful, because that cost quite a lot of money. So in the end, we made this whole facade for very, very little money, and we made these white frames on the outside, which you can see on some old buildings here. So yeah, I think in the end, this was definitely like, when you stand in front of your facade and it's finished, it was definitely a big satisfaction. When we bought the house, the entrance to the terrace was actually really tiny. It was like this tiny double door that I had to like go down and open like that, and that's sort of the heart of the place, where when you walk out and you're on the terrace and you see the view. So of course we wanted that view from the room as well, and so we said, okay, we have to make a big opening.
Yes, as big as we can.
Yeah, as big as we can. Yeah.
And so we did with the help of, again, Stasio, thank you so much, who came and helped us put an EPN, which is something you hadn't done. I mean, you had done for the door downstairs.
But it was so large that I was quite unsure. I mean, it was over 2 meters to install it myself and not have the roof collapse on me.
Yeah. But I remember when Stasio came with a friend and they started drilling and breaking the wall, and I could see your face completely melting. You felt
it was very emotional.
How did you feel?
Well, because so far everything on the house we had done, so we had the control of what gets destroyed and how.
And we didn't break many things actually.
No, actually no. And then there were these professional builders come, who, I mean, to them this is an emotionless process. Boom, you do it. You smash the walls, you put that in, Wow, it was
I was very excited. I was seeing the view appearing. and
Yeah, for me it was really hard. But it's also interesting. This part is one of the only parts in the house that we really weren't so much involved, because they opened it up, and then we had a sliding door made from aluminum, a very large one, and that was also placed in. So that was one of the only parts that we didn't get done ourselves.
But I'm sure we have also some good things to share maybe about that, because this was not as easy to have these people come and measure things. It's specific to the fact that our home is so quirky and old and not straight walls everywhere.
So once you want to buy something straight and standard and you want to adapt it to something that's not straight, you're in trouble. If you do it yourself, okay, but you want someone else to do it, not so easy.
I think they didn't like working for this project.
No, but the final result in the end,
yes, it's great.
It's worth it.
So once we had this big opening towards the terrace, my father had this great idea to try to make the terrace feel even bigger, because it's not big. What is it?
Oh, it's like 4 or 5 square meters. Yeah.
So he thought, why don't you make the floor, the color of the floor there, the same color as the tiles inside? So when it's fully open, it feels like a long, big room without really a break in between the outside and the inside. Yeah. And you managed to make a béton ciré with the same color.
Yeah, which is sort of like a terracotta, and the idea definitely worked.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's a nice sort of just an extension that you don't, as you said, you don't feel the break. As we opened up, a lot of the floors for all the pipes, electricity and the heating pipes we had to cover them, of course, and we also had these holes on the second floor. So we needed to find old tiles. For some parts we had it, but for others not. And these tiles are old. I mean, they're 70, 100, who knows?
Some even more.
Maybe even more.
Mm.
So it was really hard to match them, which was really, I mean, your job to sort of sourcing that kind of thing.
Yes, I got really good at looking and searching on different websites that we're happy to also share with you if you're in France. Of course, Le Bon Coin and some other ones where, yeah, we had to just be patient and look to find the right tiles that would fit.
Yeah, and it was also, I mean, we had in the kitchen, you see it's quite a mishmash of different tiles, but they're all old and they all have that kind of, you know, that life and patina that makes them live together. Like if you mix two new things, often that just doesn't work. But once you have that age, you can feel it. And I think I really loved when in the entrance area we created, there was no floor because we took it away. You found a person who just took away cement tiles from her house because she wanted to put a wood floor there. So the day or 2 days before, she took out those tiles from her house and we came and picked them up and the same day put them into our house. And they look like they've always been there.
Yeah, they fit so perfectly.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of working with something old, with working with materials that have been used.
I think you didn't mention also that the door in the entrance, the first thing we
That's true.
We bought that door before we bought the house. We already knew this house was the one we were looking
That's
at,
true.
but before we signed, we found this incredible door and it just felt right. It felt like so symbolically the first thing we bought was the entrance door.
Yeah, and
also secondhand.
Yeah, for pennies actually, and it really fits as if it's always been there. When people come, they don't imagine that this wasn't the entrance because the door is so old. And that's really the beauty of using old materials, that you have a certain flexibility that I don't think you have with new materials, because again, they're straight. Like our sliding door, you know, it's straight, it doesn't fit into something old. So because we used all these old things, yeah, there was definitely something more flexible in our approach.
There was also how you wanted to reuse anything we found in the house. The house was quite empty already from any beautiful parts of it, but there was pieces of an old chimney, probably. Marble pieces that were left in a corner. And you had the brilliant idea to reuse that and incorporate it in the home.
In the beginning I didn't know how, but in the end they became part of the kitchen surface. And I think it's just nice to keep memory that, you know, the building has its own life, and it had a life before you and before us, and in our case for many hundreds of years. So yeah, that definitely should be incorporated.
I grew up in Provence, and for me the main place of joy and happiness, especially in the winter, was the chimney. To have a fireplace in a home feels extremely important. It's an identity of a house in the winter. So that was my request to Lukas. Can we have a chimney and can we have a place like that in the house? And
you also said it should be like open fire, because you like the sound of the fire. And I think we weren't so clear in the beginning, and then one day you said like, I saw some inspirational things. Why don't you make it like floating the chimney, and why don't you have like a bench, and then from the bench comes the chimney.
Yes.
So, and that's the great thing, if you make things yourself, okay, let's just do it. And I think the next day I started to make like a structure for the concrete bench. So I poured the concrete, and from there I slowly built up the chimney. So first the sides, then we had the metal plaque.
We found from our friend Regina a beautiful plaque for
the chimney, and the backing of the chimney, made from
an image,
cast iron, with an image. So that became part of it, and then I created the top part, and then slowly built up the chimney all the way to the top of the house, where there was already like the exit was already there, but there was nothing else there. So that was just sort of growing naturally, and then we also covered it with lime later on, and it creates sort of this very organic shape to make the chimney, which I feel is now, it's like the centerpiece of the dining room.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
The heating system, as I said before, was one of the biggest worries I had, because in this region you don't have gas connections in small villages. We definitely didn't want to use oil. Solar is a bit tricky because the roofs are protected and you can't always use solar power here. So, and for me, I didn't want to use electricity purely, because that's what a lot of people use here, electric heating. So then you're dependent on electricity prices, which currently is a big issue. So I wanted a wood stove, but usually most of the wood stoves, they just, you turn on the stove, like a chimney, which is aesthetically nice, but in the end there's a tiny bit of heating and the rest just goes puff up the chimney and is not used. So I wanted a heating system that that utilizes the energy fully. And I guess you let me figure that out a bit.
Well, because you grew up in Austria, where you have these incredible ovens that warm up a whole house, I thought you were the most experienced one for having a house well warm. Because in Provence, if you ever came here, most of the time people are wearing multiple jackets and sweaters inside their home in the winter. No home is really warm.
Yeah, the systems for heating are not so good, I would say. So, any case, I'll do an extra video on this, as I said before, but yeah, I created a heating system from a wood stove that is fueled by wood. It heats the room, it creates a cooking environment, and then it feeds the radiators via a stocking system, via a boiler. And that's, in the end, it worked out quite well, and it took me a lot of time, and I'll share some links on that special video in terms of if you want to create something like that yourself. Sort of by then, after the heating system, the house structure was sort of done. I mean, it felt like, it's becoming a real house. Like once you have walls covered and I don't know, things just appear, I would say. And it felt it was only like the kitchen, the bathroom was to be done.
The bathroom, we thought for quite a while, where can we make it? Because it's a home that is not that big, and the rooms are interconnected and really dialoguing with each other. So for the intimacy of a bathroom, we didn't have that many choices.
Yeah.
And with the great input of my dad, we transformed a room that felt a bit like a trouble to us into a great space for both a bathroom on the top and a toilet on the lower part.
Yeah, we made a concrete slab, so we created a divider, which for me was the first time to create a complete floating concrete floor.
Scary.
With, like, of course, all the metal in the walls welded together, and then there's also this indent for the shower, so where you actually stand, so that's indented in the slab. So that took quite a bit of figuring out and building the support for it and then pouring it.
And thank Martin, who came and saw something we
That's
were
right.
doing,
He
and
was
I
like,
think we're doing something wrong.
Yeah, because I did that, and he was like, just before we start pouring, he's like, I think you should weld those together for real stability so you don't break through at one point. And you're like, okay, let's do that. So those little saviors that come and help you are.
So if you have some expert friends, always make them double check what you're doing.
Absolutely. And for the bathroom, it was an interesting process, because it was really, we just made up a room from scratch. So after the concrete was poured, we built the divider wall between the sink and the shower. And then I built the wooden structure, which is now the sink, because that's actually made from wood. And
béton ciré.
On top, béton ciré. That's basically everywhere. I'll do a special video on béton ciré, because we used it quite a lot, and it's a super material, great, but it's a bit tricky, and there are some parts I wouldn't use it for anymore, and definitely lots of lessons learned. So I'll do an extra one on that. But that's sort of the bathroom, and that was one of the last things. The kitchen also came, which we also have a béton ciré part, and the kitchen also had these problems that we talked about before, where our house is not straight.
Yes.
The floors aren't straight. In the kitchen we have 1,000 different tiles. So I had differences to install the kitchen of about 10 centimeters. So that's really a problem if you buy, because the bodies of the kitchen are pre-made. I bought them from IKEA. But of course they're made for something straight. So it took me a lot of figuring out how do you attach something that's not straight. It's not straight wall, and then the floor is also not straight.
A very important process in inventing and creating the kitchen was to get some old cardboard boxes and creating the structure as if, and playing around and really imagining yourself cooking here or cooking there, or how you want to interact with friends or with each other while cooking. Yeah,
having like two people pass by, like, does that work?
Yes.
Like, do you touch yourself to like each other too much, or like what's the space dynamic? Definitely.
So I definitely think we should do a whole video about the kitchen.
Yeah, for sure. What we did was, so as I said, I used the structures were IKEA, and then the surfaces on the top are béton ciré again, with like wooden boards and béton ciré. And with the kitchen, I'm very pleased actually. It became like a heartful space. And on the front, we have one of the many doors that Nora sourced.
Yes.
Because actually we did, I don't know, what do you think? How many doors did you find? 30 or?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Because we decided to make everything that's from wood, pantry, wardrobe, make from reclaimed wood. So Nora was sourcing old doors all around.
Flea markets, the internet shops I told you about before, people, friends,
Yeah.
anything. Driving by the garbage, seeing a door. I think
True, yeah.
I think there's. Yeah, what's very funny with this home is that it's a home without any doors
Yeah.
on any doors that we used. All the doors are
the rooms,
reused
yeah.
for specific usage, but it's a home that completely circulates without any doors. The only room with a door is the toilet.
Yeah, that's it. So all the doors are actually in the pantry. So in the dining room, we created this large pantry from these beautiful doors that you found from an 18th, 19th century hotel or?
Yes, 18th century.
18th century hotel.
Late 17th century.
So really, really old, beautiful doors that I cut to shape and created this bit of pantry wall from it, the structure around, and with this color that you chose. And also we had a lot of doors, more heavier doors for this walk-in closets that we created from this bizarre mezzanine room we had. So this is all the walls are just old doors that we found, and it works really well. And again, because it's old doors, they already had their life. They feel like they belong here, and that's really the big difference. Again, working with recycled material, and I think that's really important. And sort of, I think the last room we haven't talked about is the room we're sitting in right now. That's we still haven't decided what we call it. The sun room, the top room, the map room. Yeah, there's many different ways. And this was an open space before, but we already have a terrace, so we thought we're gonna enclose it with these beautiful metal windows that you can open up fully. And yeah, sort of to have an indoor space.
All year round.
All year round. We still haven't used it that much yet, but
no, because we're coming up with new ideas on how to also furnish it. We still haven't finished completely furnishing things the way we want, and this is also some things we need to do custom made, I think.
Definitely. So we'll still there in the planning process, I would say. Well, that's the end of our first sort of full review on our 8 months DIY construction of this house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more to come. More single videos on different subjects, as we said, and we also make a quick review on the house for those who want it a bit more speedy and speeded up. And well,
hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah, hit the subscribe button and like it, share it, and we'll see you in the next video. Ciao.